A lot of the followers I ended up getting would follow me because they were so interested on how I was going to get out of the next big ordeal. Like, am I going to be in jail in London right now? Am I going to be stranded in Death Valley on one of the hottest days in 16 years? Am I running from the cops? Like, what's going on and how is he going to get out of it?
So what we do is we take you from the genesis, the beginning, and then we find out what you're doing, and then I'll talk about stuff that amazes me that you've done.
Oh,
and well, you know, might be simple to some people, but I'm a simple man, so maybe it's more fascinating to me. So you are from the great state?
No, actually. So I'm a military brat.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I was born in North Carolina,
All
a place called Moorhead on the beach. And like I used to tell people, the songs that I knew as a kid going to school, as my dad would drive me, would be the march cadences, the left, right, or left. I've lived all over the place, all over the country, all over the world. But Texas is where my mum's family lives.
Okay.
So it's just easier for me to claim there because I don't really remember North Carolina much. And I'm always going back to Texas to see my mum.
Right.
So yeah, that's Texas.
What part of Texas is she in?
She's in Houston.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
I know that because you're always going down to Houston,
Yeah.
and your car is always breaking down.
Hey now, hey, what? That's...
You sound Australian.
I lived in Australia for quite a while. Yeah.
Cool. I thought maybe I was just crazy.
No, at this...
Well, you know, let's not confuse
We
the
won't rule
two.
that out. We won't rule that out.
This is actually what happens when a joke goes too far. So there's Australia Day over there, and I had to... and I get it a lot now. Like, I'll be speaking to somebody, and they'll just be like... They'll try and do the accent back to me, and I'm like, oh, and it hurts. It hurts me. To my soul. I'm like, oh, it's so bad. And I guess when I was living there, I kept doing that to my friends, and they'd be like, stop it, we freaking hate this. And I was like, no, it's great. I'm fucking, oh, mate, I'm good. I'm so good. And so it came upon Australia Day, and I guess I did it once, and they're like, look, you've got to stop. This is shit. And I'm like, oh, fuck you. You know what? I'll teach you. This is great. I'll make a bet with you. So now let me explain something. There's an exorbitant alcohol tax in Australia. So like to buy a 2-liter bottle of Jack Daniels is $150. Exactly. That face you're making says it all. But at the same time, they make a good living wage over there, so they could still afford to go out every weekend and have a drink. But it's still very expensive. So I made a bet. There were 5 of my mates there, and I was like, look, guys, here's the deal. I'll take this accent out. And you guys, each of you will buy me drinks. So there's 5 of them, maybe have to buy me 1 drink each. I'll take it out. The moment someone's like, I don't know, man, you sound, what are you, Canadian? I'll be like, I'm from Texas. And I will pay them back for whatever they spent on me, and then I'll buy them drinks for the rest of the night. So one guy buying 5 dudes drinks. And they're like, fuck, all right, let's go. And I got alcohol poisoning. I drank so much, and no one guessed because I leaned in. I guess I leaned in super hard. And I woke up drunk for the next 2 days. And then finally, when it went away, it was the weekend, and I was working. I have to pronounce my R's and get everything back. The next weekend, obviously, because it's the drinking culture, the weekend comes, we're going to go out and get... As soon as alcohol touches my lips, comes right back. And I'm like, all right, guys, let's go. We're back in. And at that point, they're like, yeah, you know what? We prefer this. You sound like a dickhead when you're American. So for the rest of the time, I was living there, and then when I come back, and when I go back, because I was bouncing back and forth, it just stayed. Now, sometimes when I come over to the United States, it gets a little weaker, and sometimes my R's come out a little more pronounced, but then I just go back over there, and like 1 week in, boom, it's back. So, yeah, I've kept it, and whatever.
Well, I know. I mean, one time I was talking to you, and you were just like, yeah, this is it.
Yeah.
That's what you said, and I said, okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, so was your father a hard ass?
No. The way that I describe it, I guess I'll say, I don't know if my sister knows this, and I kind of don't want her to.
Okay.
So maybe I just won't tell her about this podcast, but I'm adopted on my dad's side.
Oh.
I don't know my biological father.
Oh.
So even after my mum and him split, he's still, like, I'd still go spend summers with him or school years with him. He still raised me. He's still my dad, 100% my dad. That's why I haven't even tried to find my biological. I don't care. My dad's my dad. He is, by every definition and example, the person I look up to the most, because what kind of noble, respectful person is going to stick around? Because my mum was going through some stuff at the time. I wouldn't say anything derogatory, but she had some maladies, some mental stuff going on, and he stuck by her. He stuck by me. He raised me the right way. He taught me to be respectful to people and to treat them with respect and respect yourself. He's an honorable, good person, and so that's what I try to live up to.
Man,
Yeah.
fuck, interesting.
Sorry, there's no like deep cuts like, oh, he abused me.
No, look, I've known a lot of people in my life. I do this podcast because I'm very, very interested in everybody and everything. I'm interested in everything.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, your dad was a military guy. Maybe it was rough on you when your art came out. This is just, no, I'm just saying.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm just yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just saying this is where I'm going now. I'm going to a different place, because I want to know where your art started.
Oh, yeah. So that, I think, came a lot from having to move around as much as I did.
Right.
And I'm not going to say, like, he wouldn't have rather... Like, when I was young, I think he even wanted me to join the Air Force. So when I was like...
What branch was he in?
He was in the Marines. He was actually a drill instructor for the Marines.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So hence the marching.
Yeah, right.
tapes.
Yeah. And that was... I'd see tape of him, like, yelling an inch away from some kid's face. Rah, rah, rah.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, that's my dad. What's going on?
Full Metal Jacket.
There was like a time I'd see, in my teens, like middle teens, he didn't want me skateboarding and, stuff like that. He probably thought I did drugs, which I've never done in my life. And, there were some things where I could tell he'd rather me, be more interested in sport or something. But yeah, no, he never like struck me. If anything, if I did anything wrong, which I did quite a few things wrong, he would just do one of those, I'm disappointed. And it worked. Because that's what, like, saying this once again, I go back, like, he's the person whose respect I most want, like, his validation. And so it's nice to hear when I do something, he's proud of me, like, I do something cool, and he's like, I'm real proud of you. Just that little bit, I'm like, hell yeah, I did it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But so the drawing, going back to that, the reason I was drawing so much is because almost like sometimes 2-3 times a year, I'd be in a new school.
Right.
And it's really hard being the new kid to just make friends. So what I'd normally do is I'd take a paper and pencil, and because I'm not very good at just going out, hey, my name's John, how's it going? Oh, hey, what's going on? So I would just sit down and I'd let them come to me and I'd draw pictures because I could excel at art, and I'd maybe draw SpongeBob or a Ninja Turtle or something, and people would be like, oh, well, you can draw. Can you draw this? And boom, friends, just like that.
Oh.
And so it ended up being one of those things where I made an introductory short film for, I did a show where it was basically a sitcom in a tattoo shop. And it starts off, and this is very true, where someone asks me what got me into tattooing. And it goes into that whole thing. Like when I was a kid, my mom bought me a Star Wars coloring book. And I went back there and I traced the Star Wars coloring book stuff. And then I brought it out and I showed my mom. And she was like, oh, that's very nice, but you traced this. And she's like, I want to see something from your heart. I want to see something that you want to draw. And so I went back and I took a new piece of paper and I drew like Transformers and monsters. And it looked like Scrabble. You couldn't make heads or tails of it. And then I went back and I showed my mom and I was like, oh, look, I made this. And she's like, oh my gosh, that's so great. And she put it up on the fridge and I was like, oh, wow, like an achievement's unlocked. That's great. And once again, every time I went to school, anytime I had any opportunity to, it made me friends. Like my art was somehow bridging gaps. So I'd have a pencil, I'd get tests, and in the little Scantron, I'd be drawing little pictures, and I'd fail, but it's okay, because I was getting better at art. And that's why it's ironic that then I went and started working at a job where you trace for a living.
Right.
So it's come full circle. But yeah, that's what got me started in art, and now when I take it, I'm using it to try and tell stories.
So let me ask you this. Did you go to school on the base?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Aren't all the children there like you? I never thought of this before. Aren't all the children new all the time?
Don't know. Because my dad, besides being a drill instructor, he also worked on these planes called KC-130s. And I know a lot of the kids, when I'd come in there, would seem to already know each other. So I don't know if my dad had like this specialty thing where he had to move around more often than everyone else. I didn't really examine that. So it could have been, but we also lived off base, or I'd go live with my mum sometimes. So because of the divorce, they divorced when I was, I think, 8. I'd be going back and forth between them, doing school or summer, switching off. So it wasn't always the same.
That's funny. So your dad would come home and say, "Hey, Johnny, how you doing? Hey, it's good to see you today. Hey, what are you doing over there, motherfucker?"
Yeah, basically. Yeah. No, he was actually very... I've only seen him lose his temper at an adult. Or really, once. I've only seen him lose his temper once, and that's when someone almost ran us off the road. And he, like, followed the person to his house and was going to, like, get out and beat the shit out of him. And I was like, hey, Dad, you don't really... But that was one time in my entire life that I saw that happen. And he did. The guy almost killed us.
And then that's when the Papa Bear gets scared for the children.
Yeah, exactly.
Not scared for himself.
Yeah.
You know, because, I mean, they always say that there's so many talented actors who were military brats, One I think about, of course, the top of the list is Tom Cruise.
Okay.
So, that they say it's, comes from showing up here, there, and there, and going to so many different schools.
Yeah.
Now, I went to many different schools, but we never moved, and I was not in the military.
Were you just a bad kid?
Yeah. When I was in the 3rd grade, they put my desk in the principal's office. So which was the worst punishment, because all I wanted to do was talk and act out, and
all he wanted to do was drink and diddle the secretaries, I guess. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Now he's got Brian talking to him
There you
all
go.
day.
Is that how he got so smooth? You snuck into his liquor cabinet and he would show you the ropes. Let me show you the ropes, kid.
Yeah.
He was running the school by the end of that
Well,
year.
There you go.
There you go. It was Mrs. Armstrong. She, anyway.
Whoa, whoa! What?
That was her name, the principal.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No. Well, the funny thing is, do you know who Ed Roth is? Ed Big Daddy Roth?
No.
Oh, he made all these custom cars in the 60s.
Okay.
He was an enormous influence on the world with his custom cars, and one of his most famous drawings is the Rat Fink.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, I do know him. Okay, yeah.
So I would sit and draw, I think it was Mother's Little Worry, because it was kind of square, and do this, and that was like, the Rat Fink was the main thing, because I was just in the office by myself.
Yeah.
And I would just draw that over and over. It's funny. I can't draw, but it's funny that I would sit around and draw.
It's funny. No one can until they do.
Yeah. Well, I think I did that okay. So with what I had there. So they're good. So drawing made you friends, which is funny because a lot of comedians talk about going to new places and making people laugh. Mm-hmm. But that was your art, was drawing. So when did you get involved in acting? When did you think you wanted to? How old were you?
Well, that also is kind of hand in hand with the moving around a lot, because after they'd be like, "Oh, who are you?" See, I don't have a problem talking with people. I just have a problem initiating the contact with people. Once they're already like conversing with me and we have this Discord, then I don't mind cracking jokes and, trying to show a little bit of witticism.
But your icebreaker was drawing.
It was drawing. Because at the same time, I don't know what it is in me. Maybe it was the way I don't want to, I don't hit on people. I don't go to a bar or something. I'm like, oh, how's it going? Like, if they want to talk to me, fine. But I don't want to make someone feel uncomfortable, and it's just bad energy. So I'd much rather just have it happen organically, as they say in Playhouse or whatever. But once that happens, then I crack some jokes, tell some stories, get to know someone, listen. That also became a thing where I had, I also had, I think, as most kids do, I was hyperactive and ADHD and all that stuff. So it's bouncing off the wall. And one of the reasons I did like drawing the cartoons and stuff is because I watched a bunch of cartoons and got all the jokes from there, and just like playing around and playing like I was the characters. And even recess, we'd go and we'd play Ninja Turtles, and I'd play the part like, I'm Raphael and I'm sarcastic, or I'm Optimus Prime, or whatever, So it started off from there, and then naturally, as it progressed with my drawings and stuff like that, then I wanted to use, like I was saying earlier, I wanted to use the art to try and tell stories, because then I had these cool things that I wanted to share with people. And that became comics. And when my drawings weren't very popular, then I'd make little videos. And then those somehow did end up becoming popular. And I'd get recognized in like other states, like, oh, you're that guy. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And it kind of progressed from there. And there's something about being able to connect with people on that level. It just really appeals to me. And I don't know if that is because I do like hearing other people's stories as well, or I'd like just telling stories to help people that may not have that bridge to those emotions, like they may not have a conduit to be able to be like, hey, look, here's someone sharing this experience that you have that you didn't think anyone else knew about.
Right.
Let's feel together, you know? So it just kind of progressed from there and just trying to like connect with people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, of course it makes sense because, I just was always trying to connect, with a new school. So, yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Can I ask, how did you end up in LA? Or is that too big of a jump? But like from when you started acting, were you interested in that before? Who is it? Is it anyone cool?
Oh,
Oh, well.
was there
Eric.
Eric?
Eric. Oh,
That's why I was
nice.
going to take it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Isn't he there?
Oh, hey, you here? Oh, wow. Eric Edwards?
Hello?
What's happening, baby?
I'm gonna call you right back, okay?
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry. What was your question again?
Oh, I wanted to ask when you ended up in LA, and was that because of acting, or was it more of a coincidence?
So yeah, it's always a coincidence, though, isn't it? So I was DJing.
DJ.
So I was okay. So I had these little videos and comics that were getting popular over here, and I was getting recognized. And I was also DJing. I would do like lo-fi trip hop stuff, and I went by the Chilanthropist. And
Cute.
Scott liked that one. Scott.
there was a cafe over here that would always play my stream, and it was like a hostel or something across the street or something like that. And then they all started getting a hold of me, and I made friends with the girl who worked there. Oh, and that's the other thing. I had it in my head that if I kept making these videos, someone would just discover me. Oh, they're so great. Someone would just find me. And then I guess the reality check was like, it's not going to happen. I got to go out and actually do stuff. I guess I'll go to LA and try it out. So I came out. I think I had like 2 bologna sandwiches, $20, a skateboard, and the clothes on my back. Maybe a backpack with some change of underwear in it.
Yeah.
And I came out here on a bus. I ended up going to Hollywood Boulevard because that was my plan. I was going to tattoo. I was tattooing at the time. And so I was like, I'll just find a place to tattoo and it'll be fine. And I'm sure there's a lot of tattoo shops on this block. And as soon as I went there, I lost my portfolio that basically shows all my drawings and stuff like that. And then I was like, oh my God. I remember pulling off to the side and I was trying to find it in my backpack. And then these homeless kids come up to me and they're like, hey man, what's going on? Let's make friends. Do you want to get a hotel room with us for the night? You don't have to pay. And I was like, sweet. Yeah, great. And it just ended up being one of these weird things. And I was like, okay, excellent.
You've been watching Brian Lally, Hollywood Native. Now I want to talk to you about something I'm really passionate about, and that's teaching acting. So I co-founded LOLAS Acting School with my son, Kyle Lally, Lally Acting School. I've been acting for a long time now. I have 100-plus credits on IMDb, hundreds of plays I've been involved with over the years, and I just want to share that experience with you.
What we do differently here at LOLAS is we give you practical advice that you can use on a movie set, on a play, an audition, anywhere. We give you the foundation to build yourself as a great actor.
If you come to us, you don't know anything, we can teach you everything you need to know to be comfortable on a set and to excel. Don't just listen to me. Look at what our students are doing. Daryl Wesley, who is writing on 2 hit shows, The Game and The Upshaws, and Ben Barrett, who is a series regular on The Politician, Megan Davis, who is playing Amber Heard in the Johnny Depp Amber Heard story. Come check us out. You ever want to try plant-based eating?
I have.
What, you're a little confused, overwhelmed, you don't know how to get started?
Definitely.
Well, there's a simple answer to that. Go to Debbie Chew's Chew On Vegan YouTube channel. Debbie Chew is a plant-based RN. I've known Debbie for over 38 years, and she's very good at what she does. You go to the channel, and there's over 300 recipes. They're simple, easy to make, and they're delicious. If you want to try it, you just might get healthy. Give it a shot. Chew On Vegan.
So I stayed in there for like a week. And then after a while, I was like, well, $23 can't really last me that long. I'm going to go ahead and I figured I'd go to Warner Brothers. They have an animation department. I would apply and see if I could show my drawings. And so that's what I spent the week doing was just drawing a bunch so I can get ready to go over there. And then, so weird and kismet. I went over there and it ended up being Warner Brothers Studio, not Warner Brothers Animation Studio. And I was like, oh, wrong place. Well, I guess I'll just try tomorrow. As I walked across the street, some girls in a convertible just started honking at me and, hey! This is such a weird story. Wow. And I was like, oh, hey. And I had one of those, like, I'm in LA. I'm just going to give it a shot. I don't give a hell what happens. I'm just going to go out and have a good time and see what happens. So I was like, oh, hey, what's up? And they came around and picked me up. We started chatting each other. We went on a date, and I told them what I was doing, and they're like, oh, why don't you just come live with us then? And so I was like, okay. And then that's kind of how my Hollywood story ended up happening.
You didn't have to show him a drawing?
No. Showed him something else.
Eric Edwards. Hey, you're on the podcast, so...
Did he butt dial you?
It's probably what happened.
That's funny.
Wow.
I mean, it's never nice getting hung up on, but when you're recording
Eric
your
Edwards is
podcast-
going to be here tomorrow morning.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, when you actually, on the podcast, you get hung up on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ow.
We're going to have to probably edit that out,
Yeah.
Scott, if you don't mind, yeah.
No, we keep it in. It's funny because Krista Minter called in when Jim Neeb was here, and I told the Home Alone story.
Uh-huh.
And then Amy cut in the scene, or Scott cut in the scene from Home Alone. It's just fun. It just really works. It just really works. So, yeah, I always leave it on for that reason.
Yeah.
If there are IRS calls, I want witnesses.
I remember taking my ex-girlfriend to go see his one act
Okay.
about like the weight loss and all that stuff.
Yeah,
And it
The
was
Wait Is Over.
So good. So good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, what is he still doing jiu-jitsu, do you know?
He what?
Is he still doing jiu-jitsu?
Oh, yeah.
Jiu-jitsu?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I wanna go.
Yeah. He choked some guy out the other day.
I was about to say, I'd go have him choke me out. I just like doing jiu-jitsu. It's fun.
Do you?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, you had a real Love Actually moment where you just moved and everything worked out. Like, do you remember that film?
I have seen it. I don't remember it.
There's one character who is like, I'm moving to America. And everyone's like, this is a terrible plan. Because he's just like, I'm just going to go. And then his motivation is that, like, no girl in England or whatever will date him. And he thinks it's because they're all stuck up. So he's like, I'm just going to move. And it sounds like a terrible plan. But he gets there and immediately, like, he goes to a bar and just, like, 3 young, attractive women are like, you should just come live with us. You're like, they just find him fascinating because he's foreign or whatever. And then it's just funny.
Yeah.
That's like literally happened to you.
Yeah, it was very wild. Yeah, it was a very strange moment. It's not like these. So there was no like sexual exchange or anything with these people. I'd have various women, I guess, let me stay at their house, and it was great to acclimate to the city, and then finally find work, and then so when I first started acting, I was going to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts,
Mm-hmm.
and I
On La
did.
Brea?
Yeah, that's the one by the Henson Studio.
Yeah.
And it was just for the summer program.
Well, and it used to be the Chaplin Studios.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Your block. I know Henson is still there, and that was Chaplin, but on the block where the Academy was, that used to be the extension of the.
They'll let you know.
Oh, okay.
Of course they're gonna. It's like it's in Hollywood history.
yeah. All
They
right.
use that as if it's
So
like,
that was the extension of the Chaplin Studios for those of us who are not there.
yeah. So I did the summer program over there, and it was fun. It was great. Oh, another fun story. So we have like the final, and I'll never ever do this again. This is bad. This is just coming to LA and being stupid. So our final scene to see if we can get into the regular academy or whatever, or graduate or whatever. The night before, I went out with a bunch of people, like rock stars and tattoo artists, and we just partied all night. And I remember waking up on a couch surrounded by bongs and empty beer bottles in an apartment I didn't know. I looked at my watch. Class had started like 20 minutes ago. I didn't know where I was either. And I was like, oh shit. So I popped out. Luckily, I was basically across the street. I ran in, and our scene hadn't gone yet. My scene partner, God bless her, was just freaking the fuck out, because if I didn't show up, we both fail.
Right.
And I showed up, and luckily I'd prepared so much for the role. At least there's that when I showed up, my character was supposed to be an alcoholic who was hungover, and I was like, yeah, and it just fit perfectly. And we kicked ass, but still at the same time, I can do that without having to get drunk now. So but I can't believe that was terrible of me. It was real bad. Oh, you're probably getting a text from Eric.
Or maybe Eric's butt.
Yeah, maybe Eric's butt. Hey, sweetie. Hey.
No, that's Jeanette.
Oh.
Jeanette did all my artwork for my projects.
Was it the Hollywood natives behind you?
She did not do that.
I quite enjoy that.
Oh, I think it's fantastic. No, Scott, she's in Indonesia. And then the picture on the right, of course, is my junior year Hollywood High.
Yeah, so handsome.
Yeah.
Que guapo.
Well, don't get old. It fucks with your looks.
Oh, I try not to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it worked for you, and you were
not getting old?
hungover. No.
Yeah, you're right.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
You were
I
hungover.
didn't know
and
you
were-
guys were the same age.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's worked better at it than I have. Cool. So you left that program. That was a summer program.
Right.
And were you working at a tattoo studio at this time?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, a place on Melrose. Yeah, so worked over there a while, but it was one of the other actors who went to American Academy that told me about Playhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I was like, give it a shot, and went there, and that's where we met. For everyone out there watching, and you always had such a cool demeanor when you come in, and I really liked your vibe. You were like the cool surfer uncle, or actually like the guy who hangs out behind the sells rolled up joints and stuff. You were always like, hey everyone, what's going on? Yeah, and that's why I called you OG.
Yeah.
Because you came in like a G, man. You were a pimp. You were like, hey, and everyone was so happy when you came in there. So you always had such great introspective stuff, like. Even though you haven't been able to see us for months, you'd still be able to like see things in us, and you're like, this was good. You don't forget about this. Bring this back. And then so when I went to go actually see you at Lola's, that was also really fun too, because then you started taking other methods and combining them with what you already knew, and
Right.
you kind of made this new fun thing. And like I think I told you like afterwards, and you're like, tell them how you feel. Like now that you're leaving,
Yeah.
don't just leave and slam the tell them. And I was like, yeah, piece of shit. Wow, that felt great. So
Yeah.
cathartic. Yeah, no,
And you said to me, you talk a lot more here.
yeah,
You let them talk a lot more
Yeah.
here. And I was like, people have to learn how to talk.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love what you're doing over there. But anyway, that's
But I got to say this about that day. I
Uh-huh.
love what you brought because you were really fucking grounded in the technique. So that day for you to show up and just do what you did was really fucking cool because most of the students at that time didn't have the training you did. So it was a good combination, man. It was really good to have you there
Yeah,
that day.
thank you. Yeah. I do what I can with what I got. I mean, it's not much, but I make the most of it, That's all we can do.
Okay, so when did you start traveling the world?
When I was a kid, yeah, my dad would bring me around. So that's just something that's, I think, just in me.
Okay, but you had your dad there. When were you so brave that you take these?
As soon as I got a car,
Yeah,
yeah, I would just be like, all right, well, I'm mobile now, so bye.
yeah,
That's why, man, if I can, he was talking earlier about how my car breaks down. That's old hat for me.
yeah.
I mean, I'm a 16-year-old kid with like a $300 Honda that's something's going to happen. And in fact, a lot of the followers I ended up getting would follow me because they were so interested on how I was going to get out of the next big ordeal. Like, am I going to be in jail in London right now? Am I going to be stranded in Death Valley on one of the hottest days in 16 years? Am I running from the cops? Like, what's going on and how is he going to get out of it? And so that ended up becoming one of the draws of people watching whatever I was doing.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people still follow me, actually. I still haven't grown out of it, I guess. Still getting myself into dangerous situations.
Yeah. Well, you've had one recently.
Which one?
To me. I forget what country you were in, but you were like, yeah, I'm following the Google, maps walking, and you came to some ravine or something. And it's the one where you got all the mites or bed bugs or...
That happens a lot too, though. So it's...
Oh, that happens a lot?
Yeah, I mean, you stay in a hostel, you're going to get... Oh, wait, I think I know what you're talking about. You're talking about... I think I was in Albania.
Yeah, you were.
I was in Tehran. Yeah, I was in Tehran. So they were building a bridge, but you only had like the one concrete beam that went over and didn't go all the way over, and it was over a ravine. And all these feral dogs were like chasing me and trying to fight me. So like one would bark at me from one end, and then I'd turn around and be like, "Stop barking at me!" And the other one would come and try and bite me as I'm like walking over. And it was just I walked like 4 miles,
Right.
And these dogs, all kinds of different gangs of dogs. It was like going into bad neighborhoods. They were just like, "You're on my turf. Let's fight." So yeah, that was one. I thought you were talking about like maybe when I was trying to climb the moss-covered waterfall.
No,
That's
no,
not it?
I wasn't talking about you trying to call.
Yeah, that was-
climb.
that was-
But I do remember that. But that's not what I was talking about.
That was probably more risky than the other one.
Yeah.
And even while I'm climbing it, like I kept having this conversation. This inner dialogue was like, stop, you're gonna die. It's almost straight up. Stop climbing. Yeah, okay. Wait, what are you doing? I don't know. I can't stop. Stop, you piece of. And so it just becomes this thing. And then I get to the top, and I'm like, I guess it was worth it. You're alive.
Yeah.
The moral of the story is never listen to that voice in your head that tells you to stop.
But then I remember you being at the top, showing the view of where you had to go back down. You were like, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's good fun. That's
How
always
did
good
you get
fun.
down?
So I spent the time and found an alternate route. It was still dangerous, but it was far less dangerous than climbing down a bunch of, because there was moss growing. It was a waterfall, so there was all this kind of moss and everything, and it was always slippery and wet anyway. And it was a lot of danger there, but it was fun. It was good. It was a beautiful view too. Like, it was gorgeous.
Beautiful view.
And I would do it again in a heartbeat now that I know a little bit more about the landscape.
It's not like Daffy Duck, who says you can only do it once.
Oh,
It's a great trick.
it's a great trick.
Eating dynamite and drinking gasoline and lighting himself on fire. It's a magnificent trick, but you can only do it once. So, but you lived to tell about it. So
far.
So traveling the world, I guess you have enough followers doing tattoos. You're like, anybody want a tattoo in Albania? Anybody want a tattoo in Istanbul? I mean, and you go there without money or a little bit of money, and then you hopefully, and you do make money on the way to get yourself a plane ticket home or to eat and to...
Well, there have been times, like, I won't mention her name, but there's a time I was in Finland. Huh? Julie. There's a time I was in Finland, and this girl was like, hey, I want you in the shoot, and we're going to pay you $1,500. And exactly. And I was like, okay. And they were kind of unclear on the dates. And I guess this will teach me, like, next time, get a contract. That's why I have it go through my agents now. But I was like, okay. So I ended up buying a ticket. I didn't have the money to, so I borrowed it from a friend who then gave me the money to buy a ticket from Finland. I had to fly through to Moscow and then fly straight to LA. Get to the thing, and they're like, turns out we don't have the money for you, and we'll get it to you, but we can only pay you half of what we said we were going to pay you, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, well, I'm here. I flew out to do the thing, and then I do the thing, and then they were like, well, if we paid you, we'd have to pay everybody, and this is a micro budget, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, all right. So at least it's an IMDb credit, whatever, but that was really the only time I had to borrow money to, like, fly anywhere. Normally I would try and do an Airbnb out of my apartment, because everyone wants to come to Hollywood, so that was usually full on, and that helped me stay in other places and help with the travel. The tattooing also helped me. This time when I went out, I didn't do any tattoos. Well, I did one, but it was mostly from the commercial, so I just used whatever money I made on that.
Right.
Unfortunately, though, there's a war going on, and shipments are backed up, so everything's like 4 times more expensive than it used to be. So
Right.
a ticket that was like €40 is now like €340, and just burned through all that money. But I hadn't been back in 4 years, and I have like a niece now that I have to go see in Germany. So I spent the money. It was worth it. I got to see all my friends. I got to catch up with a lot of old mates, and so I don't begrudge having to spend that money. I just came at a bad time. Yeah, as it always does, having to spend 13 grand in 2 months.
Oh,
Well, there
there'll
you
always
go.
be a reason not to go, right?
You got that going for you. So, how to get to this on the podcast of how great an artist you are. So, this is just my opinion of you. So, I don't know if you ever saw Animal Inc. I did a short film about tattooing animals. So, John, I asked him if he'd be in it. He was the tattoo artist, and John has no tattoos. So he sat in his car and he drew this like phoenix on his neck that looks like a tattoo in his rearview mirror. I mean, I'll show it to you. I sent it to you the other day, just talking about years ago how we did that. But I just love people's art. I love people that excel at art. And the things you do amaze me.
Oh, thank you.
And you have 0 tattoos, as I said, which is
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
You are so good at doing tattoos, but you don't feel the need to have any yourself?
Well, I'm not a criminal, so, or a part of any gang. So, gross.
Then why are you running from the cops all the time?
Oh, yeah, no, because they're the criminals. Hiya! There we go. There we go.
So also what I like about you is that you're always moving on to the next thing. And you're always posting your art. So you go and you buy this, I call it a supercomputer, just you buy a computer.
It's an iPad.
And and from my generation, it's a supercomputer. We used to have to use an abacus, and now
Sundials.
Yeah.
It would be hard to draw on an abacus, I have to say.
Well, you should see what I've done with an abacus. And you start to teach yourself animation on the computer.
Wow.
I know you say to me, you go, yeah, that's what I did that last week.
Well, yeah, so, like I say, I'm compelled to tell these stories. And I realize
That's what you're here for,
Yeah, well, one, I don't want to burden someone else with having to do something they don't believe in. Like, I get people to ask me to do things for them all the hey, can you draw this comic for me? And I'm like, I would, but I've got 9 of my own projects.
Right.
And it's not paying. So I don't want to do that to someone else either, because I know how I feel when it happens to me. And so instead of, shelling out and asking my friends to do me a favor that probably won't go anywhere, instead I just spend the month learning the program and figure out how to do it myself. So I've been able to make animated trailers for things that have gone on to win like Adult Swim pitches. They had a show that was called Pitch Meet.
Sure, I remember that. Yeah.
And so I won that a couple of times. And then from there I was like, okay, well, this is a viable thing. So now I have to double down and learn even more. I've got something that it's kind of like my opus that I'm hoping to film a trailer for. That's what the Western was supposed to be. I was writing that so I can get a crew together that we could then film a sizzle and try and get funding for this other thing called the Space Vikings versus Dracula and the Moon Men. And as goofy as it is, it's like a fun space opera type thing, action, adventure, fun.
Right.
Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor Ragnarok type style. So I started learning 3D modeling so that I could make the suit of armor. I bought this big 3D printer and everything like that, learned how to do 3D printing, so that way when I needed to make the armor and stuff like that, I can just print it out myself. I wouldn't have to wait on someone else to do it. I didn't have any money. That's the other thing. I'm poor.
Right.
If I could afford to hire people, please, I'd love to. And that's one of the reasons why I have these projects that I try and pitch, because if one of them gets picked up, I'd like to take the money that I use from that one and help fund some of these other ones, because I believe in all of them. I really do. Like, they're fun as fuck.
Right.
I don't expect the other people to do it for me. And just like with moving out to LA, I realized that if I want something done, I've just got to go out there and do it.
Right.
And it's a process, and it takes longer than I'd like, but I'm getting there.
Oh, yeah. But here's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay.
Is that most people can't do that.
I disagree.
Oh, no. No, you can disagree all you want.
Yeah.
You may say they can. You may say they have the ability.
Mm-hmm.
But to put it all together from here to here is not done by a lot of people. It's very funny. I don't know if you know, I have Rocky, who was a student of mine for a long time, Dr. Rocky Benoit. Rocky's a trauma room surgeon, and he came from Louisiana, and his dad was a 19-year-old drinker, and his mother was 16. And I told him he had no chance in life. And now he's, lives on the beach in Seal Beach or close to the beach. And anyway, what I'm saying is Rocky starts businesses. And Rocky's like you, where he'll say, like, oh, you could do it. You know what I mean? He's a successful doctor. And he creates these other businesses. And he really believes, and he really believes that everybody can do it. Yeah, you could do it.
I'll tell you why. I'll back it up. You were talking about earlier, if I could say this I'm sure you probably said it, but you were saying like you were homeless, eating out of a trash can and stuff like that. Remember I was talking about my mother's mental maladies?
Yeah.
So was I. I was homeless, living under a bridge. I remember, I know the best places to steal bikes. You go to the trailer parks because they don't have a garage and they'll just leave them outside. I would go into all-you-can-eat buffets with plastic things that I would get from the dollar store, and I'd fill it up and then go back and I'd have them in my backpack. I'd panhandle during school. I was in academic decathlon. No one knew, because I was in the Smart Kids Club, that no one knew that I was homeless and living in a bridge. I have people now that were like, why didn't you tell me? I would have, because I'm not going to ask for help. I don't want to put that burden on you. Did it. Lived on the street. all that shit. My dad didn't know either, because if he knew, he actually knows now, and he's super pissed that I didn't tell him. But that's the thing. I don't want to make him upset. I don't want to upset him. Plus, I think it was right around the time I found out it wasn't my biological father, and there was that weird push, that you can imagine. I could have so easily, because I was in bad neighborhoods, I could have joined a gang. So easy to just join a gang, sell drugs, do the bad stuff, have some people there that will protect you.
You see Brian here? He's not always doing the best. Financially, mentally, physically, for sure. You want to help keep Brian off the streets of Hollywood? There's a way you can help. Join us on Patreon. You want to tell him what we got on there, buddy?
Yes, we have the general admission, we have the backstage, and we have the VIP all-access pass. So please, join today. I'm due for a bath.
In the arms of the angel,
But I also realized that'll probably end me up in prison, or maybe I'll start doing drugs, and that's not what I want for my life.
Right.
So I'll just eat out of a garbage can, I'll work my fucking ass off, and I'll get to where I think I need to be. So I know that I can do it. When it came to, like you say, people, not everyone can animate. Absolutely they can. They just have to dedicate themselves, make small goals, and go, you know what, I can do this. Today I'm going to draw a stick figure. Well, I'm getting really good at drawing stick figures. Now I'm going to take this tutorial that I'm learning from, and I'm going to try and draw this way. And now this is like bringing up AI, because this is something, and a lot of artists are like, it's theft, it's theft. It is, sure. But the reason that it hurt me when it came out is because I dedicated my life to a thing, and now you have this program that you can type in a couple of prompts, and in 2 minutes it can produce something far superior. And this is me saying, like, with all humility, far superior than anything that I can make, and many variations of it. And that hurts my pride, it hurts my ego, but it's also a very useful tool. So if the person has whatever disconnect, they didn't spend their life drawing like I did, and they still want to tell that story, now they can do it with prompts in AI. And I'm not advocating it, because I know there's a lot of frightening things that, like we're actors, and I've seen it. You can go on, I've seen it, they're using it to convey emotions that the actor's not actually doing. They're using it to try and write scripts now. The strike is basically about AI right now.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's a very useful tool for people who don't think they can to actually do.
Right.
Like I said, this is coming from someone who spent their entire life dedicated to trying to be the best artist I can be. And so when it's all, with all humility, it dwarfs whatever talent you think I have. It can do far beyond anything that I'm capable of. And that hurts my pride. But will that keep me from using it to further my goals? Fuck no. Because basically what I want to do is share my stories. That's the whole reason I started drawing in the first place. And that's the whole reason why, once I get over my own ego, I'll probably be using AI and try and figure out how I can implement that in telling some of these stories.
I never heard it put that way, but it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's frightening. It really is. Even saying this, I have like this weird, like my body doesn't, I feel like a ghost. I don't like it. It's like having to admit the enemy force won, Admitting defeat is real tough. It's real tough. It's necessary for growth, I think. And that's what we as artists need to do. We need to figure out how to grow past this, because it's out there, and the genie's not going back in the bottle.
No.
So how can we, as artists and creators, then take this and make the most out of it?
Right.
Yeah, I guess the thing is that I always think about my character defect in life. The reason I used to fight with bullies is because it was unfair for them to pick on smaller people. Mm-hmm. If it's used for good, it sounds like I'm an old Superman TV show from the 50s. If it's used for good, that's good. But the people that want to use it for bad, and they're all out there, that's the frightening thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
just like with anything. I mean,
well, yeah, nuclear weapons. Yeah. So, in the wrong hands.
I mean, even a fork. I'm hungry. Well, use this fork to eat. Well, I don't like it. Well, I'm going to use it to stab your eye out. Yeah, that can be said with any tool. It's not the tool, it's the person using it, I guess. Right. Until of course AI starts using itself, and then, which they've already started, AI starting to build its own AI, and Oddly enough, I was talking to some when I was just in where was I was in Athens, and I was talking to some at the hostel I was staying at. I was talking to these engineering students from Ireland, and they were talking about how it was being implemented to make new aircraft. And the new aircraft, like they would the way the joints were connected or the way the wings connected or something like that. Still, it wasn't as strong as the builds these days, so it had like a 95% efficacy of the current builds, but it was also like a third of the weight. And so it was the exchange was well warranted, and the way it went about it was totally outside the box, because they were saying, as engineer students themselves, they were like, when we take a project and we're trying to build a better mousetrap, say, for instance, we will look at the current mousetrap and try and go from there, where AI is just like, I'll take in the breadth of information. And so they did some kind of weird organic, almost like helix forming thing, and it's just able to think of these possibilities, say, outside the box, like really outside the box.
If it breaks down in the air, it will fall slower.
Probably, I don't know. It's actually the same, I think.
Weighs less.
It's the way relativity. It's all about the drag. Like you drop two things and they fall the same. Anyway,
If they weigh the same,
no, it's just if you drop two things that
no matter what they weigh, they're going to fall at the same rate.
Then you have drag. So if it has a lot of drag per se, it's like, I mean, we could take two things here and drop them on the table, but yeah, they drop at the same rate.
Like my IQ points.
Fair.
So that's amazing. I hadn't heard that part of it either. So it's happening fast. Skynet is amongst us.
Yep. So are aliens, though, apparently. Hey,
Yeah.
that's great.
They threw that in just to.
Yeah, just to distract us from, I don't know what. It's very frightening. I'm more frightened about what they're hiding than the aliens.
Right, like considering how long that was kept, were they just like saving it for the right distraction time?
Yeah, I
Everyone
suppose.
look in this direction.
Yeah, I guess so.
Now, since you've been out to New Mexico, have you been out there to the
To
area?
Roswell?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I went through Roswell. It's kind of a kitschy little fun thing. There's got a little statue. I'm sure you've been, yeah?
No, I haven't been.
It's like a really small town. Maybe it takes 15 minutes to drive through, but everything's alien this, alien that. It's real cute, yeah.
What is it? Area 51? What is it?
Yeah, Area 51. Yeah, no, I haven't been there.
Right.
I almost went for the party when they were going to free the aliens.
Right.
I almost went. I was like, I might as well.
Sounds wild.
Yeah, I was like, there's got to be some fun stuff happening. I'm glad I didn't, because I saw that it was a bunch of people with campfires just hanging out and playing doof music. But yeah, it would have been nice to say I went.
So it's funny. I was going to say I saw you acting on shows recently, and then I was going to ask you what's going on now, but we're on strike. We're on strike.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, John, I haven't seen you on a show lately. Oh, that's right, because...
Yeah, because we're on stage. Well, I
Right.
mean, the commercial's still playing, I guess. I still have people messaging me like, "Hey, I just saw you on TV." Oh, that's it feels real good too. Like I do like that. The Western that I'm telling you about. That like once I get done with this, I'm gonna go and make a video for the book, and then I'm gonna go and try and write more of that.
I'm glad you said the book, because we haven't talked about Dude Looks Like a Lady.
Yeah, Dude Looks Like a Lady. I even have a copy of it with me, just on the sly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Western should be filming in November, but like I said, with all the new things that are coming up, I don't know what's going to go on with that. I'm going to talk with them probably the next week once I get more of the script done and try to figure out exactly how we're going to go forward. We're still trying to secure money for that, and that is so beyond my pay grade. This is the first time that someone's done something big where I've got other people who are kind of in charge of the money and everything like that. Normally, if I film something, it's self-produced, and that's usually just asking a bunch of people for favors and like, oh, hey, I'm the manager of this bar and you can film here. You know, yeah,
Sure.
something like that.
Yeah.
So this is the first thing where they're like, when they said 25 grand, my jaw dropped. I was like, Jesus, that's a lot of money. But now they're like, that's going to cost even more. And I don't, it's beyond me. Just, I hope they know what they're doing. If not, hey, at least I have a script out of it.
Yeah. Well, no, man. I mean, it's where we got to go. Producing our own work, creating our own animation. I mean, that's how you get it done. We were talking about being in class or in a class and seeing these people showing up for class, talented people,
Oh, yeah.
and just not doing anything.
Yeah. Just letting their talent go to waste, really.
Yeah.
It's, and it's a cautionary tale, really. I don't know if it was because they weren't confident in themselves, or maybe they just kept waiting for the right project and thinking that it would just present itself one day until they look in the mirror and they're like, well, now I'm too old for this. I have no idea. I'm sure everyone's got their own story and their own reason for being that way. But like, if we've learned anything about me through this discourse, it's I'm not going to wait around. I'm going to go and do the fucking thing.
Well, right. But you're not going to listen to the negative either because I have guys in my generation that are like, yeah, white guys can't get a job anymore. And I'm like, I don't fucking want to hear that because I've always known I'm going to get the job I'm supposed to get.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go out and I'm going to audition for every job. And these guys with that talk of that kind of stuff, oh, you can't get this, you can't get that. I don't want to fucking hear it about anything because I'm going to get everything that I want.
There you go.
And I'm working on my stuff that you know about. I'm working on a lot of stuff all the time too. But
that attitude is not going to get them, I don't know, like if that's your attitude, to me that's the problem.
Well, that is the problem. But I also think it's a fear of working hard or working harder. And I took hard out of the equation. I always say focus now because hard kind of has a negative thing for me at least. But if you're focused, you're going to keep working every day.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. You don't have to say working hard. You just keep focused. You're going to be focused on your project. You're just going to be working at it. So I think some people are just afraid of that or want to give an excuse for why they're not working. But I'm like, dude, I mean, I just did a SAG job in the middle of the strike last Thursday from someone who knew me from acting, who was casting director, recommended me, and I got the gig. You know what I mean? So people are like, yeah, we can't work. I just worked.
Yeah.
It was a great day.
Yeah.
It was one day's work, and it's a real focal part of the film, and it's really fun. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's many reasons not to like that type of mentality, but one of the reasons why I really don't like it is because then you start pinpointing the enemy, and you're like, I can't get it because of people of color, or trans people, or women, or whatever have you. And then that puts you on a negative path where you're more open up to that kind of energy coming in.
Yeah.
Like any kind of argument coming from that side, I don't want to say it's the right or from fascism or whatever have you, but yeah, we were just talking about today. I've been on a troll war against these anti-woke people, and it's just because I can't believe the hypocrisy that comes from a lot of these people when they're just looking for a target and they want to blame a marginalized group of people for like the downfall of society because the Little Mermaid's black now, as if they gave a shit about the fucking Little Mermaid before she was black.
Right.
Like, bruh. It was at 1984 where they're taking all the old Little Mermaid tapes away and they're burning them and you're not going to be able to watch it anymore.
Yeah, you're not allowed to watch that version anymore.
Exactly.
Like, just watch the version you like then.
Exactly.
If you're a 56-year-old guy that's all like angry about it, like, oh, I didn't realize you were watching The Little Mermaid every day.
Hey, I'm sitting right here.
Well, you can keep your white Little Mermaid. It's okay. She has not been burned at the stake and replaced.
Yeah. So what I wanted to say about my point of view on acting and finding the enemy is that I don't want anybody not to get theirs. I don't want you not to get yours so I can get mine.
Yeah.
I'm going to get mine.
Yeah.
And I don't want anybody not to get the gig. You know what I mean? And so that's been my philosophy for a long time. And it works for me. You know what I mean? Because there's so much work out there nowadays. You know, I know the residuals are, I mean, they really are. I mean, they really are. When you went to Netflix instead of syndication, I really got like 10% of the money. That was a hard thing. So I'm glad we're out there fighting. But there's so many platforms where people are making things and you can go out and get an acting job.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's an acting job. That's the thing. Getting out there and showing up on set and having people pay you to act.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
it's a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like a lot of the things that I'm talking about, like I write or that I make, it's just I want to make them with friends. Like the vampire short film, it's going to be in the film fest, a horror film fest in New Orleans this October, and it's won a couple of awards at some other places. I just made that because I had friends, and I thought they were great actors, and I was like, you want something for your reel? And it was the same thing I was telling you about the classmates. I was like, we can make stuff. I've got a camera, I've got labs, let's make the thing, and then it just kind of turned into an actual short film. But they said yes. They were like, yeah, let's do that because I don't have any other option. And now here it is going around. People are seeing it. It's got them other acting gigs. There's work out there if you make it yourself too. And that's the thing. I don't want to like disparage anyone ever really. But the people who are like, oh, people of color, if you're not someone of color, you're not going to be working at it. At the same time, give them the fucking shot.
Right.
I'm sick of like, not many people know this because my family's whitewashed. I'm Mexican. Yeah, look at your face.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm Mexican with an Australian accent who looks like a surfer. I look like I guess a dollar store Mowgli or like, I don't know. Or Tarzan.
You had a very Texas last name when I met you.
Was Devilman? No. But anyway,
No, I'm
moving
just
right
saying-
along.
I'm not saying it. I'm just saying, you know what I mean?
Well, that's
So-
from my dad.
Yeah, okay.
And that's yeah, it's why I've kept it because of the respect that I have for him and the
Yeah.
way they raised me.
Oh,
but
that's funny. Yeah, I have the same type of thing with my mother.
Yeah.
No, anyway, it's
but no, I think I when I was speaking of the Little Mermaid, I heard about like little black girls who were seeing a black mermaid as the main character, and they would just cry. And it's good that they have these people to look up to, these role models. That it's not going to be, you know, Thuggy Bear or like the drug dealer number 6 or something like that.
Right.
You know, you have these role models, and that's how we start changing the whole dynamic, where the stereotypes and everything that come along, which a lot of the anti-woke people that were complaining today, or it was about a racist cartoon that had all these stereotypical tropes, and it wasn't a funny cartoon, and they were like, oh man, it's the woke people are ruining the country or ruining the society, and I was like, it's usually the politicians and the wars and stuff, I thought. But
Yeah.
no, I guess it's trans kids want you to call them they, them. Wow. Okay, then. Yeah, but I'm glad that there are these opportunities. I'm glad that we're hearing stories from different cultures, and it's giving these people ways to relate and to express themselves. Like, I fucking love it. Oh, shit, yeah. If that means less jobs for me, I don't give a fuck. I'll just keep making my own shit.
Right.
Well,
there's nothing
right.
stopping you from making your own stuff.
That's the most important thing. It's funny because when I was working with Franco at UCLA, Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg's partner came in to talk to the class, and of course they came in. It was packed. Must have been 100 people in this room, and he said to them, "If you come up and ask me for help, and I say, 'What have you done?' and you say nothing, I'm not interested, because you got a phone.
Yeah.
You can show me something." You know what I mean? So that's what I'm talking about. People doing something on their own and keep moving forward. And, you know, in my little pimp video with my hose, who's 70 years old, got 17.5 million views between the two of them. And then Snoop picked it up and it got another 14 million in a week. You know, he's like, Graham's going good at 23 or something, whatever, because it was, you know, towards the beginning of the year. But it was just like, you know, you put something out there, and then people start taking notice, I guess is what I want to say. I met this woman. She used to work for international marketing for CAA. Now she works for some big management company. I showed her my videos, and she said, "You may be my next signee. You know, show me what you've done. I got a new campaign I'm about to drop in a week or so." And she was like, "Well, send it to me." People take notice if you do stuff. You know, I was working for a big channel, and I said, "What about if I'm a pimp and all my hoes are 70 years old?" And the funny thing is that you know this as well as anybody. You put this out there, and people will start picking parts away. Well, you know, they start wanting to take stuff away. And the guy who was producing said, "Well, you know, we're having trouble getting 70-year-old actresses, so, you know, they're going to be younger." And I'm like, no! That's not the fucking bit.
Yeah.
The fucking bit is that they're all 70 plus. That's the joke.
Only grands.
And this is what's crazy about me being my age is I'm thinking these women are coming out here, they're going to be real stuffy because they're grandmothers, right? But they're not. They're fucking hippies. They were hippies. And this is another great thing. And I've been involved in 2 projects like this. This is another great thing. So we had 4 or 5 women. I should look at the video. We had 4 or 5 women, all 70 plus, and they were in a room together, and they were going to be working together with people their own age, and they were so excited. And some woman brought like 10 outfits, and she's like, "Who wants this one? Who wants?" Because they got to dress like hoes.
Yeah.
And they were so excited. And I said, because I wanted them to do some pervy stuff. And again, I'm thinking they're grandmothers when I was young, but they're not. They're fucking ex-hippie generation.
Yeah.
So we're walking down the street, and I go, "Ladies, you want to do some crass stuff?" They go, "Yeah." I go, so we're walking downtown Long Beach, and I got my pimp outfit on, and I start screaming out, "You got an itch?" And they scream out, "Fuck a bitch." And I say, "You got some dough?" And they scream out, "Fuck a hoe." And they're all into it, you know what I mean? But the sad and good thing is that people of that age never get to work with people of their age. And to have these people all getting together and being involved in just this, one day shoot for that was just really cool. But people will immediately try to start changing your vision. And it was just something I came up with. And I thought, it's easier to get younger women. Yeah, but that doesn't work.
Right. That's not the joke.
It's much funnier coming from,
This isn't the thing that gets you 31 million views because it's so fucking funny. And one of the women had a bad leg, so she had a cane. And that was really the selling point for the whole thing. And, somebody was like, oh, Lord, please get this woman a chair. Please get that woman some flats.
Gramps steals her cane.
Oh man, and they're like the retirement home gone crazy, man. This is what happens when you don't have enough Social Security. One
People
guy
can't be helping but post it in the comments.
Yeah, one guy put out, Pops ain't new to it, he's true to it. So it's just a few other things that these just little videos that you come up with. When you have a vision, you got to stick with your vision. Because people are out there, and I'm not being negative. I'm saying people are out there that will try to change it, and what I'm being positive about is you have to see your vision through. Hit or miss. You have to see because that's what you're going down with. And, I just love that you have the same vision at your age. It took me a long time to be secure with my art and what I wanted to do. Because, it used to be people who were like, yeah, that's not going to work. And I'm like, you're right.
I get that all the time.
No, of course, but I would say you're right, and then I would change for them, and at the end I'd be like, well, I knew that wasn't going to work, so I had to find my way. But I'm glad you have it like that. So, what's in the future? Do you have any crazy? I'm feeling like we're missing some stories from your travels.
Well, first about people, the naysayers. I remember one time I flew into London, and I didn't have a return ticket. And so what they do, because I came there to do that, I was going to tattoo and make money, and that's illegal because, yes, right. I am an international criminal, everybody. Oh, Eric. Oh,
Here we go.
Is it a butt dial? Do we got odds?
Oh, no, it's for real. It's for real.
This time.
It's for real.
Santa, baby.
Sorry about that. My phone wasn't connecting to the car.
Okay.
It popped all over the place.
Wow. You are on the podcast. We are live. And we have John Devilman here.
What's up?
Oh my goodness. Handsome John?
Hey!
That's what I call him late at night.
He promised to roll with me when he was in town.
I'm here. I just got into town.
How many days are you going to be here?
I'm here till the end of the month.
Well, dude, let me know. I'll go, come into a class.
Yeah, please. You got to send me the address, because I was just talking about that, how I wanted to go do that.
Are you blue belt yet, or are you still,
I'm like on the cusp of blue belt. So I traveled around so much, I never really was able to get my belts, but I'm probably on the cusp of there. Probably mid-range blue belt.
Old as the truth of fiction.
Yeah.
We're never in one place. Facebook will communicate.
Sounds great.
We'll figure out something. All right,
I will see you tomorrow morning on your podcast.
Yes, you will. And make sure, Brian kisses you first. That's all I'm going to say, John.
Okay.
Don't forget that.
Done. Done.
Done and done.
All right. Love you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Finally.
I'll make sure to call 4 times tomorrow when he's on his podcast.
Finally.
But okay, yeah. So went to London, didn't have a return ticket. They got there and they were like, "What's your occupation on your thing?" I didn't know I would need a return ticket. And I said, "Actor. I'm an actor." And they're like, "Cool. What have you been in?" And I was like, "Oh, try to look at my IMDb." I was like, some things, because I didn't have my return ticket and I was going to stay with an ex-girlfriend. I was just it was Halloween. We were going to go and see Dracula's castle or something. They were like, "Yeah, this person's obviously coming here to marry her and live on the dole, like live on welfare and become a citizen." And that absolutely was not my plan. I just didn't know how long I wanted to be there. Right. So what they did is they ended up throwing me into like this internment camp. Like it was jail. They threw me in jail for like refugees and stuff. Very much jail, because I've been to jail, and that's fucking jail. And as I went in, everyone there, brown as can be, except for like maybe 5 white guys who are absolutely Russian mob. Like full, because I see the tattoos. They've got the ones on the knees that mean you don't kneel for anyone. That means that I've killed people. Because I could read them. And I was like, oh, Jesus. Everyone else there, one guy was a grandfather. He's like, I've lived here 16 years. My daughter was born here. I just had a granddaughter. I have a business. So other people were like, I'm escaping from a war. I did all this stuff, like horrible things. So I was like, I just didn't buy my return ticket. And they're like, what are you doing here? You're an American. I don't know. I guess I'm just an idiot. That one moment though, that one singular moment, I kept those naysayers were in my head because they would tell me like, you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. You're just going out there with no plan. You're crazy. You don't do stuff like that. I don't care who you think you are. And I'd tell them like, oh, it's me. I'm John Devilman. That's who I am. That's exactly who I am. I could do this. So while I'm sitting there incarcerated for the 3 days, I honestly thought, damn, these guys were right. Maybe I should just listen to them. Maybe I should just listen to everyone who tells me no. So the 3-day comment. So what it is, they kick you out of they're booting you out of the country. Right. You're not being deported. Because if I wanted to, I could come back the next day and try again. I probably wouldn't get in, but I still could.
Right.
So what they're going to do is, since I had to be there 3 days, because there's not I guess they had to give me the cheapest flight back to Los Angeles, is where I flew out from. They gave me the cheapest flight, and that took 3 days to set up. And there was still there was a layover in Copenhagen. So it's whole like the cops, they escort me on the plane, the cops do, and I'm in handcuffs. So like everyone on the plane going to Copenhagen from London is like, who the fuck is this guy? And so I play into it. I'm like, I'm rough. I mean, like, look at me. I can only imagine what they thought. So I come in there. The cop has my passport, all my like identification, all this stuff in a manila envelope. The steward or the flight attendant, they give the flight attendant this stuff and they're like, you make sure, because there's a layover, you make sure that he gets on the other flight. You make sure that he goes straight there. You hand this over to the next flight attendant. You make sure that he gets on the flight to Los Angeles. He can't, whatever. And then they get off. I sit down in the front. Everyone's wondering what the hell's going on. And that flight attendant is like, and just hands me the middle. Boom. So now I have all my stuff. I'm in Copenhagen.
Right.
I end up going through customs. I could just be in Copenhagen and I get online and I'm like, here's the deal. I'm just stranded over here. I've got money. What should I do? Should I go back and be like, well, I tried. No big deal. Or should I keep going? Anyone who's in Europe, hit me up because I'm looking for something to do. One of my best friends, he's like, I'm in Istanbul. It's $200 to fly here. Come down here. You could stay with me. So I went to Istanbul. That's what I did. Instead of going back to LA and tucking my tail between my legs, I went to Istanbul. Right. Met someone in Istanbul who was like, we're going to Budapest. Sure, I'll go. Ended up going to Budapest. Then met someone over there who was like, we're going to Bratislava. Ended up going to Bratislava. I kept saying yes. I kept doing the thing. Fuck the naysayers. Because you know what? They'd have gone with the tail tucked between the legs back home. Right. But because of that, I got to meet so many amazing friends and have so many amazing experiences, see world wonders, all kinds of awesome things. And I think about that now every time someone's like, I don't think you could do this. I'm like, get fucked. I've been there, bitch.
Right.
Who the fuck are you? Humbly, of course. I don't actually say that. I don't, but in my head.
Well,
humbly, who the fuck?
And now, sorry, back to your question, the book. So, if I may, I'm just gonna bring it out.
Of course you may.
I love that now it feels like a morning breakfast TV show where it's like, oh, we're going to talk about your book.
Yeah, I'm very proud of this book. I'll do this in the mic so it gets better audio. So, I'm very proud of this book, and it's called Dude Looks Like a Lady. And it all started off, the whole forward actually talks about this, but it starts off from my mum calling me at 4 a.m. and freaking out because my uncle told her I was gay. So I'd been asleep for maybe 2.5 hours, and I'm like, unless something happened in that time, I'm not married to fucking anybody. And she's like, well, your uncle said he saw some pictures online of you marrying a bloke. And I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? You're out of it. What? So I came with the plan. They were saying they saw something on my social media. So I was going to make my social media just so uncomfortable for anyone from my family to look at. And some of my friends, to be honest. They were like, I love you, but I can't. So I asked my female presenting friends if I could take their modeling pictures and then recreate them myself. And so that's what this project started out was. It was me, like, faithfully. I'm not taking the piss out of any of them. I'm like full on, and I'd spend hours, sometimes days, trying to get these right, just right. There are some of the ones that I'm most proud of. lot of my butt too. It's just,
I know, I've seen them.
yeah,
So
just can't be helped. But some of the ones
I've been on the journey.
so like some of these, like this took me 3 days to recreate because I had to get the lighting right. I had to buy props. I had to do all this stuff. But I'm trying to do a truthful, like respectful recreation of what they gave because I'm not trying to disrespect them either. Well, then people started to address it like it was comedy, and they'd go, "I love this, ha ha ha, it's hilarious." And I'm like, "Well, what's so fucking funny about it?" And then that's when it became me. I'm starting to question gender norms and the societal role that those play on what we're allowed to do as someone who presents female, male.
That's funny, man.
It became so much more. And then from there, I started interviewing trans people, non-binary people, and just going on this whole conversation about the societal gender norms and how they play a part in our world and how they're changing and why that landscape is a positive thing, like why we want that. And then, there'll even be the debate like, well, what about when someone who is born a male wants to play female sports? And to be honest, I'll be honest, I'm like, I don't know. I don't have all the fucking answers. But what I do know is what I do know. And that's what I wrote about in the book. So a lot of this became, there's a lot of jokes in there because I talk about how uncomfortable it made me at first to present, like it's really hard to, I don't want to say it's brave, but it's really hard to put that out there in the world. And then oddly enough, though, one of the conversations I had with a model who is just a wonderful human being, we had this conversation and she was saying, the reason I wanted to be a part of your book is because you now know what that feels like. Fuck. It's when how hot you are is a commodity. So like that's usually if you present female, that is what you have to offer the world is your beauty and the standards that we hold for that beauty. So they were saying, you understand what it's like, how hard you have to work to get a picture that makes it look like I'm just hanging out. But yeah. I scrutinize over hundreds of these pictures to post the very best one. And that's what people like her have to go through all the time. I see the vitriol and hate that people who are born or assigned female at birth and now want to transition to something else. I see the hate they receive from people because they just want to live their lives. And now they have to deal with threats of violence. There's rights and issues that fuck, my phone's going off in my pocket. Fuck off.
Eric Edwards?
No. But there's all kinds of things like now they're targets, and there's such a marginalized group, and people are trying to make it out like there's these boogeymen, and they're evil, and they're stealing children, or they're cutting the penises off of little boys and stuff like that. That's absolutely not happening. These narratives that are being created, I don't know if it's distraction or if it's because we need to fucking focus on hating a group so that way the evil politicians can get away with whatever the fuck they're getting away with. I don't know. Once again, that's beyond my pay grade, but I know it's wrong. And I know you should fucking respect people. You respect their choices so long as it doesn't hurt anybody else and they're of a mind to make them in a healthy state. So that's what a lot of what this book ended up being, with a fair bit of cheek. And I'm not just talking about my butt. I try and add levity and humor, but at the same time, I'm trying to tell stories of other people who are going through things. So speaking of actors, there's Dustin Hoffman. I do a little tidbit of him because someone who sent me a picture, she sent me something where she's in suspenders and trousers and very much what would be considered like a male. And then I talked about how it wasn't even legal for women to wear men's trousers. I mean, still in Tucson, Arizona, it's illegal. They just got in 2013, I'm probably getting the dates right. They just got rid of a law in Paris, a 200-year-old law that forbade women from wearing pants. But yeah, it wasn't socially acceptable for like the last 75 years to women. Women couldn't wear pants in Congress until like 2004.
I had no idea that women in Arizona couldn't wear.
It's one of those things where it's like one of those laws they don't enforce, but then if they need to,
they can use it to oppress you whenever they need it.
Exactly.
I find this really interesting, and I really like that you've experienced and been able to highlight for other people the frustrating sexism behind it being demeaning to be feminine. Like people having a problem with you appearing feminine because if you're a guy, why would you want to appear feminine when that's less, right?
It actually says exactly that, because you're less than, second class. It goes on further to talk about how just if those, like, because this is something that's gone on in perpetuity for a long remainder of time, but there are arguments that people bring up about, like, well, these societal roles are necessary because such and such, where if we look at places in Asia, the roles are reversed, where the men would stay home and do the thing while the women would go out and hunt. I mean, it's not a necessary thing. It's just a further means of oppression, and it's not right. And that's why I celebrate these people who are casting off the gender norms, the gender roles that they've been assigned. And I even I quoted I think he's a biologist, a doctor in here, and he's like, sex and gender aren't the same thing. And even sex isn't a binary spectrum. There's 46 different ways that our chromosomal places can line up. Like, that's why I'm not 7 feet tall with a large ass beard and hair on my ass, because they line up in different ways. And to people be like, well, you only have this and that. That's absolutely false. Scientifically, it's false. And gender is a social construct, usually to keep
People in their roles.
To people in their roles. So it talks about that in the book. And that's why it's really important to me, and that's why I've been trying to get it out for so long. It's not just me taking really hard, like, I look real good. Like, oh, real good. I'm just saying, whoo, smoke show. But it's not just that. So there is a message behind it, and that's why has been important to me, and that's why I have been working so hard to try and make sure that it gets out there and people can read it. I have a couple trans people who've read it, and they love it. I'm sure there's others who'll hate it. There was a non-binary person who read it, and that was the best feeling, because they're also autistic and don't have very good social interactions. It's hard for them, kind of like me, to like open up and just be like, hello, how are you? But when they were able to meet me, there was none of that. They were very excited to meet me, and their mum, who's also non-binary, was like, this really helped them, be able to express themselves. It's kind of like I was talking about the films and such with people of color or trans people or not, other people. When we have that thing that we could relate to, representation, and why that's so important, that's also another reason why I think the book's important. But anyway, that's my book. That's one of them. That's one of the projects I got going on.
There you go. Well, it's funny when you talk about people giving you hate. It's just crazy because, when you're making the book, I was like, hey, that's fun.
Yeah, and it was
I was like, saw the pictures. I was like, that's pretty cool. It's just funny. I had no idea it was that deep, and I had no idea people would react to it in a negative way.
Yeah.
I didn't think you were gay because you made it. I just thought, here's John doing his art. It's funny. That's funny.
Well, that's the thing. Even with the cosplay, I would do a lot of, like I would do Leia from Star Wars, Sally from, Nightmare Before Christmas. I did Sally, the Warrior Woman from Mad Max, Road Warrior.
Right.
I just love those characters.
Did you do Tootsie also?
No.
Because you mentioned Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah. So the really good interview, and it went viral recently.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Where he was talking about how he wanted to play Tootsie, so he went to the makeup artist, and he's like, I want you to make me into a beautiful woman. And so the makeup artist did his hair and put the makeup on. They put him in a nice dress, and then he goes out there and he looks in the mirror and he's like, no, I wanted you to make me into a beautiful woman. And the makeup artist goes, that's as good as it gets. And so from that moment, he's like, but I have so much to offer this character. And then he realized in that moment that because of the beauty standards that we place, and like I said, that's usually the only commodity we look for, if he was at a party, he wouldn't come up and talk to him as a woman.
Right.
And so he thought, how many genuinely interesting women have I just not given the time of day because I am brainwashed by these beauty standards?
Right.
And so he went home and he cried to his wife, and that's when he had this, he was like, I have to make this movie.
Right.
I have to.
Right.
So I talked about that in the book as well. But yeah.
Yeah. There we go. There we have it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
for coming out.
Like I said, anytime.
Yeah, had no idea. Had no idea where it was going to go, and heard some great things. So
It's the first time I've cried on your podcast.
you cried?
A little bit, yeah.
You're a weakling.
Oh, wow.
Wimp.
We're gonna cut that out because it wasn't even funny.
The fact that it wasn't funny is
Yeah.
kind of funny to me.
Yeah,
Though.
yeah.
You don't like running red lights. You don't. You cry at the podcast. Ah, come
Stop
on.
when the light's red.
Actually, also before we wrap up, is there anything you want to promote? Social media, just that's your camera.
Okay. For those who are interested, you can follow my social media at John Devilman on Instagram. Tattoos by John Devilman. There's a cartoon that I'm making called The Monsters of Rock. So if you go to Monsters of Rock cartoon on Instagram, there's also a video game I'm making called Metallic Catastrophe. You can follow that on Instagram. There's another cartoon that I'm trying to make called Orklahoma. You can follow that on Instagram. Spelled Ork K-Lahoma. There is my vampire short film Thirst Trap. You can find that on YouTube. The Western, I don't know when that'll come out. You could also probably see my native ads playing all over YouTube. So, haha, I'm that merman. That pronouns are he, fin. Yeah, I'm sure there's more stuff, but I just can't think of it. So thank you very much for having me. Thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure. And yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
I can't believe that you can remember that many different social media tags at once. I love that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's probably some on there that I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah. Always.
Like, and you could buy the book at dudelookslikealadybook.com. You definitely want to put that book in because otherwise it's a completely different site. Unless you want to go to that site, but you need a credit card and I think an ID that shows you're of age. But Dude Looks Like a Lady book. There's also Dude Looks Like a Lady book on Instagram.
I'm going to go find it.